Okay, all right. I think we're on. And hello, everybody. This is Dan King from Fist Bump Media, and just like to say thanks for jumping on and attending this webinar. We love doing these webinar series, and today's session is on some writer strategy. I love this topic. It's a favorite of mine because I really kind of dig doing this piece of really any project and stuff too, but this one is about 4 simple steps to seize your best-selling book idea. Before I jump into, I got to tell you a little bit about where this kind of comes from for me and stuff too. And as Fist Bump Media, we're really built on a lot of my background experience and stuff is building a platform online myself. Right, I've been blogging for 13 years or so at this point, and I had self-published a book that's done pretty well, and actually it's one of the things I'll kind of hit on, talk about a little bit too, but this is that first book, The Unlikely Missionary, From Pew Warmer to Poverty Fighter. Use that to continue to grow my platform. Got picked up by a traditional publisher and had a book traditionally published as well. That book, The Unlikely Missionary, has done fantastic, right? Especially considering that the average book published out there across all mediums and styles and publishing levels and stuff too sells about 250 copies. The Unlikely Missionary has sold about 13,000 copies. Not a New York Times bestseller, but it has several points ranked number 1 as a bestseller within its niches and stuff too, and categories on Amazon. So it's actually done pretty well, and the steps that I'm talking about today are steps that I have gone through when I'm working out book ideas like that. So this is stuff that I've done and that I've seen pretty great success with. Use this stuff to really help you kind of beat the curve. Beat the odds and stuff too. If you publish a book, and a lot of people might get excited to sell 250 copies, but I'd love to see you sell a lot more than that. And doing this stuff right is the kind of thing that will really help set you up for success. So with that, I got a few slides, a few things I'm going to go through with you here today, and this should be a pretty quick one, but there's some really big ideas here. The first thing I want to kind of talk about is this is one of the things that I've learned in the training development area, and I've worked in that many years in the corporate environment, and the approach that we take to developing a training program is really a pretty incredible one too, and it's an approach we call the ADDIE model. And the ADDIE model is something too that as I look at running other types of projects like this, whether it's building a website, writing a book, a lot of the same process, we go through the same types of phases, right? And there are 5 phases in the ADDIE model, which make up the word ADDIE. The first phase is analysis, and really that's the key piece that we're going to be talking about today. But once you do analysis, then you can start working out design, and that's kind of building out the idea. What does this look like, right? And then you go into development. And then in the case of writing a book, that's where you would actually write out the book, right? And a lot of people think it's like, I want to write a book, and they just kind of open up Microsoft Word and just start going at it, right? But really, if you start doing something like that, you've skipped 2 really important steps that help you kind of flesh out that idea. To make sure that you're building on a good foundation and stuff. But the development is where you actually write it. Implementation would be more along the lines of that publishing process, and how do I get then this piece that I wrote, get it out there and published. And then evaluation, it really kind of flows right back to analysis and stuff too, maybe for a next project or whatever. But evaluation is then where you kind of monitor and evaluate essentially, what's working, what's not, how successful this is. And again, a lot of that information can feed right back into analysis for another project down the road. But analysis, like I said, is the very first step in this ADDIE model, and it's really super foundational. You have to get this right if you want to have a successful project, right? So in this analysis phase, when we think about discovering great book ideas, there are 4 things that I like to do in this analysis phase for any book project, whether it's my own or working with our clients. And while there is some kind of build off of each other kind of in here, this is not necessarily like you have to do these things in this specific order. But the first thing is just ideation, right? It's the brainstorming and coming up with ideas. We'll dig into that here in a second. And then you do some keyword research, right? I like to do general research into the search trends and what kinds of questions are people asking and stuff, and and what are they going to Google with, right? Because Google's going to be a big friend of yours. If you nail this and you can create a book that helps answer certain questions that people are asking to Google, your book could show up as a result for those searches and stuff. So that's going to be one thing that's really going to help you kind of get found. So really important to understand that, but not only from a kind of search engine optimizing your book, but you're going to be looking for questions and stuff like that too that can feed you quite a bit. And the third thing here is audience research, right? Ultimately, when you're writing a book, you're writing it for an audience to be able to read. So it's important to make sure that you're digging in and understanding, what they see and what they want, what kinds of things that they want to hear. And then the fourth thing is Amazon research, right? Amazon research is going to be similar to keyword research, but you do that specifically on Amazon. But there's a few other things that you can do to dig a little bit deeper to really help you kind of bring out some of the ideas to help you kind of formulate your book idea. So as you go through this process and do these 4 things, it's going to give you an enormous amount of information that you can kind of toss around and play with and stuff too, and say, this is it. This is the idea, because this is what people are looking for. This is what they're asking about. And that's what I'm going to write my book about, because I feel like I've got a good voice on that topic. Okay. So once the first step, right, for getting into this is the ideation piece. And this is where we're going to brainstorm the idea. And really, this is not a complicated process, right? And this is something that if you want to write a book, you're probably already doing this, right? But there's some questions that you can ask yourself to help you kind of brainstorm the idea. What kinds of things do you dream or daydream about? What's just on your mind all the time? What are your favorite books about? Take a look at your reading list, the stuff that's on your bookshelf, or on your Kindle, or on your phone, the Kindle app, or whatever, wherever you read your books. Look at that, and what are some of your favorite books, and kind of as you do this, jot some notes down and say, I read a really fantastic book about this. It inspired me in this way, or whatever, because that's going to give you some clues about things that you're really passionate about. Do you have any special interest or expertise? What are some of the things that you've done that, if you're in a group of people at a party or something like that too, that what's the one thing that makes you the most interesting person in the room? There's probably something that you've done in your life. Maybe it's one of these things that you're really passionate about and stuff too, that gives you some special insight and stuff that people would want to rely on you. And think about it this way too. What questions are people asking you? And for me, and we'll kind of dig into this a little bit too. But I know when people talk about adoption, right? We've adopted 3 children in our home and stuff from 2 different adoption situations through the foster care system, and friends of ours look to us for expertise, like, you've been through this process before, you're doing a great job raising your kids and stuff, help me understand this. So those are interests or expertise and stuff that I have that other people don't. What are some subjects that you're super passionate about, right? If you had an opportunity to speak to a crowd somewhere about anything you wanted, what's the one thing that you would talk to them about? What topics do you have lots of content on in your blog, right? If you've been blogging for years, look back over your blog history and stuff too, and look for the trends in there. If you use tags or categories and stuff in a certain way, look for those to see what topics in there do I have a lot of content about. For me, I've got a lot of content about things like poverty, adoption, stuff like that. Okay, and it goes that, and I've got a lot of stuff about poverty and adoption and and so on. And great, it's got to verify that's me. So those are things that you'll find in my blog that I could kind of pull from. In fact, the first book, The Unlikely Missionary, came because I found a really great series of blog posts that I wrote on this one topic about a mission trip that I had been on. So that can become a really, really great source of information, looking back at your blog and saying, there's all this information on this. Some of those posts can actually be foundation for material that goes into the book. But if nothing else, it can help kind of spur the ideas. So do all this stuff, right? Kind of jot, and your big task here is just jot some ideas down. Think about these questions, jot some things down, write down titles of those books that you're talking about. Think about questions that people ask you that they consider maybe you an expert on. Look at your blog, all that stuff. Jot down a bunch of ideas on a piece of paper, and that'll be the kind of the beginning here. But this is that first step, is that just the brainstorming, the ideation of topics to get you started. And like I said, this step is really just to get you started, right? Because really the power is going to start coming in the next steps. As you're working out your ideas, the real power starts taken from the ideation, the brainstorming, and then starting to research those topics a little bit better. Okay, because I can come up with ideas like, for example, adoption, right? It's something that we're super passionate about, my wife and I. It's something that friends ask me about. I have some expertise. Hey, if somebody asked me to stand in front of a crowd and talk, that might be one of the things that I talk about, right? Because I feel like, I've got so many feelings and thoughts and ideas about this topic that I could just stand up and just talk, right? So for me, adoption is one of those things. Okay, but just having that idea of adoption, I'm going to write a book about adoption, is not enough, right? So I want to dig in more, and this is one of those next steps here for really developing your idea. And you want to kind of start developing your idea from keyword research. This is where I go to tools like Google. I'll just do a Google search on adoption, right? Adoption tips, adoption stories, just do regular Google searches for that kind of stuff and see what kind of stuff comes up. Are there other blog articles there? Are there organizations and stuff that do certain kind of work that have information on those types of topics? Are there YouTube videos? Are there books and things like that come up in those searches, right? Jot all that stuff down too. Make a whole set, take another page of paper and start jotting down the trends and things that you see in there. I also like to use other tools for keyword research and stuff. And this is a cool one. It's a site called Answer the Public. You can get there, just answerthepublic.com, and you can plug in a word. And I've already done a search here too, and just search for adoption. And as I scroll down, you can see it breaks out very visually for me too. It's got 183 questions, right? So questions around adoption, the how, the what, the can, where, which, who, why, all the stuff. And as I look through these questions, I see things like, it might be a little bit small for you on the screen, but how adoption works, how adoption changed my life, right? I look through other questions, process by which adoption of invitation spreads, and not really relevant. Which is better, adoption or IVF, right? So people dealing with, hey, I want to have kids. Which is going to be better? Should I go through in vitro fertilization or should I adopt? So there's even questions of why adoption is bad, why adoption is good, why adoption is important, right? Why adoption is so expensive. So these are all questions. And as I go down too, there's prepositions. It's not even just questions. Adoption is, for example, adoption is wrong. Adoption is hard. I can tell you that. That's one of the things that my wife and I have always said, is that it's probably one of the most beautiful things that we've ever done, but it's probably one of the most difficult things that we've ever done as well too. Adoption, is it right for me? Right? So you can see how just doing some keyword research and then using these things to discover these are questions people are asking. These are searches that they're doing. So this is a tool that's pulling some of that search data and pulling it into different ways so that you can kind of sort through and kind of visualize and look at the stuff, right? And you look at this too. Obviously, the darker green is the heavier, the lighter green is the lighter volume of searches and stuff. So if you can go through these graphics and find and get inspired by some things that pop out, especially in the heavier green, darker green ends of these things, jot that stuff down again on your paper, right? Because if I spend 5, 10, 15 minutes playing around with something like this and looking for questions and the topics and the things like that in here, I could probably draft out all of the chapters that are going to be in my book, the things that I know is like, oh, I can answer that question, right? So that's why keyword research like this is really crucial and critical and stuff too. So when you're doing keyword research, there's a couple things that you want to do. Number one is, what trends are you seeing in the results? Okay. Just those few things that I pointed out right there too. I see questions about people questioning, is adoption the right thing? Is it helping? Is it hurting? Is stuff like that. Those are questions that I can kind of delve into and help try to answer, right? What isn't being talked about, right? That's one of the other things that you'll want to dig into. And if you go back to your first step, the ideation, you're gonna have ideas, you're gonna have thoughts, feelings, things that you're passionate about, right? I may have ideas that I'm really passionate about as it relates to adoption and stuff too. And if I don't see that happening in search results and stuff too, if I don't see those answers there and stuff, maybe that's something. Maybe I have a unique perspective or thoughts or feelings and stuff that I can bring to the conversation, in this case about adoption or something like that I can do. So answer those questions. What trends are you seeing in those results? What isn't being talked about? Do you have a unique perspective there? So whatever it is, you could play with those ideas a little bit and again, jot all that stuff down on your paper. At this point, you play with a tool like that, answer the public for a few minutes, do some Google searches on your own, look 2, 3, 4 pages deep into those search results. You're going to start generating a lot of really, really great content information. Okay. So the next one that we want to talk about is really developing your ideas, from audience research. Okay. And this is kind of a cool, fun one, right? So if you've done some of the brainstorming, the ideation stuff, and you've done some keyword research to try to find, the trends and things like that you want to do, take your ideas out and go talk to people, right? And I love doing this. That this is a really cool, fun one because it's a great way to build overall the long-term strategy of stuff too. But post something like on a Facebook, for example, and ask your friends and the people you're connected with there. Say, hey, like this post. I said, hypothetically, if I ever publish another book, which of the topics would be most interested in reading and why, or something else, right? And I just made a little graphic that kind of list out 3 ideas. And one of the things is I share this across social media, both on Facebook and on Twitter, stuff like that too, is a lot of people were really looking for that adoption journey story, right? I got a lot of great feedback about the other ideas too, but that was the one that made people go, yes, I want to hear your adoption story. I want to learn more about how you did it. I want to learn how you succeed through that. And whether somebody's considering adopting or not, that was a story that I keep hearing that people just want to hear because they think it's an interesting story, right? So by taking that out into social media, I have gotten feedback from people. So I'm not sitting around going, I think I want to write a book about so and so. I've gotten their feedback, but better than that, even in the comments, they've helped me kind of fill out that sheet a little bit more and go, oh, these are some of the things that specifically that they want to hear related to adoption. So you can do that. Conversations with your friends, right? It just in real life, face-to-face conversations. If you're talking to friends or relatives or something like that, you really want their feedback has got to be important to you, because those are people, if they don't want to buy your book, then who will, right? You want to make sure that they like the idea, So if I'm hanging out, with friends at a family to get together and stuff, and I say, hey, I was thinking about writing another book about adoption, and you get the, oh wow, that would be great, let me know when that's done, and I've gotten that with a few book ideas and stuff too, but just those conversations, you can see the reaction, and if you get them, that sounds interesting, maybe it's not a great topic. So a lot of times that face-to-face interaction, and just people will show you how they feel, and if you see the idea generates a lot of excitement for somebody else in face-to-face interactions, then maybe you're onto something, right? But again, take those ideas, take feedback that you get face-to-face with people, jot that down in your notes, grab the comments and stuff from posts like this on social media, and add that to your notes and stuff too, because that'll help you really kind of filter out the ideas and stuff quite a bit. Yep. All right, so the next one, the last one, and this one's pretty cool, right? And this is where you're going to start then taking the ideas that you've been working out and developing and really just bumping them up to the next level. And this is where you take an idea from really being a good idea to really developing the bestseller idea. Okay, so there's a cool thing you can do in search, and you see it everywhere and stuff too. As you start typing in the word, it's going to start kind of auto suggesting ideas for you and stuff too, right? So in this case, this is an example. It's just an image that we've got in. We have an e-course on this 30 days to #selfpub. And so this is an example we use here too, where I did a search for poverty, and you can see some topics and stuff that start filling out, right? So you can see things like poverty in America, the end of poverty, bridges out of poverty and stuff, are things that people are actually searching on Amazon for, right? So those become kind of key terms and stuff that I want to make sure that I'm trying to target. If my idea fits with something, don't force it, right? But if I have ideas that kind of revolve around some of these things, I want to make sure I make note of some of those keywords and stuff, because I want to leverage that. Not only as I continue to flesh the content out, but even as I'm thinking about things like keywords that I'm going to put on the book listing when I load it up to Amazon and stuff, so it makes special note of that too. But I'm going to also take a look too, when you do a search, and I've been talking about the adoption example quite a bit. You do a search, and in this case, I searched for books on adoption. I'm going to skip by the sponsored stuff up top, right? Because I don't want to kind of, get results from what people are paying to, get in front of me. I want to look at the organic results here and stuff too. So if you see sponsored on there too, skip that, scroll down a little bit, right? But I see several books just for a basic word like adoption. I see several books here. Some of these are children's books. Great books you probably read to your kids about adoption and stuff. Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? Really big kind of franchise of books and stuff there too. Has something about the joys of adoption. 7 core issues in adoption and permanency. Again, a couple more children's books and stuff too. And you start seeing some too. Honestly, adoption, answers to 101 questions about adoption and foster care. In on it, what adoptive parents would like you to know about adoption, right? So you see a few books here too that are going to start giving me ideas. Now, obviously, not everything in here is going to give me great ideas and foundation stuff too. But when I search adoption, these are the books that are showing up on that first page. So I want to make special note of those too. And again, don't worry about the sponsored ones, right? And look at it, even some are tagged as bestseller in children's adoption books and stuff. But skip over the sponsored ones, but look for the ones that are showing up here on the first page, because ultimately that's going to be your goal, right? When you publish a book, you're going to want to show up for searches like this. If somebody searches adoption and you're writing a book on adoption, you want that here on this page. That's going to get you some traction and stuff, right? So look at what you're competing against here, make some notes, and we'll dig in on some of those, right? So for me, one of the topics within adoption that I would probably write on is probably pretty similar to this one. Maybe both of these two here or something like that too. But I'm going to dig in, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper, right? And I want to take a look at the listing here for one of these books that's showing up on that first page. Okay, make notice of things like pricing for the books and stuff. Again, because you're going to be competing on that level. Check out the description. Check out the description of the book. To kind of better understand what it's about. Are there things in there that pop out? Right, that kind of give you clues as to what it's about, and maybe there's some elements that you want to touch on in your book too as well. Pay close attention to and make notes about this. Customers who viewed this also viewed, right? So look at what other people are actually getting. Maybe research a few of these books and stuff as well too. You see one, The Connected Child is a #1 bestseller. Right. And, so that might be worth following up on and researching a little bit. Another big thing too that I love is, and I'm going to come back to this, right? I'm going to look at bestsellers and stuff, but is getting down into the reviews. Okay. Because the reviews are going to be really insightful, because this shows you also not so much with what the author wrote about, but what people, readers, were looking for and either found or didn't find in that book as well too, right? So you see, for example, here's one that says, I'll be a grandmother of an adopted baby soon. The anticipation is killing me. So in search for something positive to do, I purchased and read this book. It was wonderful. It gave me so much insight into what my kids had been going through. It helped me focus moving forward in a positive and helpful way, right? So that's something that's telling you exactly why this person bought the book. And then in this case, they loved it, right? Gave a 5-star review. It tells you exactly why they loved it, right? So those are elements too that you can say, yeah, that's what I want to do, right? I want to reach people like that. I want to inspire like that. I want to provide them with information like that. So you can see several reviews. I mean, we could kind of dig through all of them, but that's the information that you're looking for. Again, make special notes of some of those things. And in this case, I'd tag things like insight into what the kids have been going through, how to move forward in a positive and helpful way, right? Being respectful of new families' wishes, right? Those are all tags and elements and stuff that I can really kind of build into to my book as I develop out the idea. So anyway, that's the stuff right there, right? That's going to give you tons of notes. Okay. But one more thing, right? Like I said, I like to see where they are on bestsellers ranking and stuff too. And in this case, this one is number 105 in adoption books. Okay. Let's look at that category here real quick. Okay. Because this is another level that you want to go to, right? And if you're looking for, books on adoption and you want to be a bestseller, top 10, number 1, right, on this list, this is the competition that you need to deal with. Okay. Do the same things with some of these books. Okay. As you go through, and, some of them may be really relevant. Some of them may not be so much, but the idea is dig in some of these things and do that same level of research to find out what these are about. I see books in here too, incredible real life stories, of orphans. So I see a lot that digs into the stories of the kids and the families and the adoptive parents and things like that too. That seems to be one trend that I see when I look at adoption stuff is, in books, and to really try to determine what people are writing about and what's successful, is that people are really interested in the stories. They don't want just necessarily a list of facts of, hey, here are 10 tips to be a better adoptive parent. I may have 10 tips to be a better adoptive parent, but if I can frame that in the sense of a story, one of the things that I see among bestsellers and things like that too, that's probably going to get me a lot further, right? So now you can see too, as I do this kind of research and I evaluate what's working, what's not, what people are saying, why they're buying their book, why they love it, why they hate it, all this stuff, that kind of information is going to help me form my book idea into a bestseller. And so with that, that's really it, right? The key is work through that ideation, right? Brainstorm your ideas, just dump it all out there. What are the things that you're really passionate about? Take that information, go do keyword research, find what people are searching, what questions they're asking, how, what kinds of things are they searching for related to that topic. Ask, right? Just ask your friends, ask on social media, ask in person, right? But, make special note of all the feedback that you're getting, and look in the eyes too, right? So you want to see that gleam in there, that twinkle when you mention an idea and people's like, oh yeah, that's it. Those are the ideas you really want to go after. And then Amazon research is going to take you to another level. It's going to help you formulate those ideas, but then dig in deep to discover the things that people love about the books that are selling the best, right? And a little bonus note too, as you're doing Amazon research, watch for things like cover design. What do the covers look like? Do they feature people, or are they just more kind of graphic and colors and stuff? Those kinds of things, right? Especially the bestsellers. There's a reason people say don't judge a book by its cover, because everybody judges a book by its cover. Okay, so make note of those kinds of things too, so that you understand better what the cover of your book should look like as well too, because that's all stuff then too, when you get all that information together. And we look back at our ADDIE model too, right? We just do that analysis, right? It's all the gathering and the sorting of that information. That's what's going to move us then into the design phase. And it's where the design phase is where all this stuff really starts to take shape, right? That's where I'm going to kind of draft out, maybe some sample titles. I may even play around some cover art ideas and stuff. I'm going to fill out the chapters. What chapters do I need to have within the book and stuff too? How's this thing going to flow? What's it going to look like, right? So those are all the things that, really, without that analysis, you're not going to have the information that you need to really build that design out. So with that is how the 4 steps you want to go through to help you seize your best-selling book idea. And with that too, like I said, this piece, the 30 Days to #SelfPub e-course that we have available at the Fist Bump Media Academy with our e-courses, that's like a $30 e-course, so super cheap, super simple stuff, but it's going to provide you a lot of the format for building off of these ideas through this analysis phase, and then going through the rest of that process to really work out your book idea to be as good as it can be. So with that, I just want to say thanks for jumping on. Appreciate you. Boom, there's a fist bump for you, and enjoy the rest of your day.